And then as the fight progressed, you just saw Chavez complaining to the referee more and more and more. And that's something that, like, that's a reason, like, some of the most famous foulers of all time, like people like Fritzy Civic, one of the reasons they'll foul you is so that you get into an argument with the referee, like, because you're going to annoy yourself, and the referee is not going to act on your instruction. Like, if you tell the ref that you're being fouled and you do it in a way that, like, you're demanding he do something about it, he's going to tell you, like, well, I didn't see it, I will look for it now. You know, he'll be very adamant that, you don't get to call the shots, he does. And very quickly, the fighter who's trying to draw the attention's ref to the foul will start acting like he's fighting against two people. You know, he's fighting against the opponent and the referee. It was one of Michael Bisping's worst habits, like just talking to the ref constantly. I mean, obviously, against Anderson Silva, dropped his mouthpiece, is talking to the ref and is like, let me get my mouthpiece or whatever, and gets kneed in the face. But even against GSP, he got taken down, and within an instant, he's telling the referee that GSP is stalling, which makes the referee more likely to go, no, I'm going to give him a moment now. But yeah, I mean, that's if Silva was fouling Chavez, which it didn't look like he really was that much, that would be more reason to foul him. Just go, and the referee was telling him off for things that weren't even there. Like, he was telling him off for catching him behind the head or tripping at one point because Chavez, like, he got outside foot position, didn't try and trip Chavez. Chavez just tripped over his foot anyway. And then Chavez is like, ref, come on, he's doing MMA on me. I always love it when these guys go like cross sports, because the commentators are always like, you can't do MMA here. Like, it's like, that's the thing you do. You're doing an MMA. But this weekend, Anderson Silva fights the hero of the QAnon crew, Tito Ortiz, and it's actually got even weirder. Triller have announced that not only are these two old geezers coming out of retirement, but Donald Trump is also going to be there, but in a commentating capacity, which is just, we're going to pay him for his great ability to talk. But you know what this is? It's a con to get, it's a con to make it into like a culture war issue, because there are absolutely some dweebs who, when they hear that Donald Trump is commentating a fist fight, they're like, oh, I'm going to tune in. It's the patriotic thing to do. But then the other side of that is that now, like, 50% of people who didn't give a shit about these old man fights now have to be really strongly against them because Donald Trump is involved. This is marketing 101. You know, Twitter is going to be full of angry libs sharing Donald Trump's insipid commentary and being like, ha 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 ha, look at this, with the Triller stuff all over it. So it's the fight game. There is no left or right. It's just cynical all the way down. You know, you don't really need to attach any part of your political compass to it. However, it does seem to be, like, the poster they put out is Donald Trump presents. So Donald Trump presents the Evander Holyfield versus Vitor Belfort fight, which they're calling the most anticipated heavyweight fight of the year, on the poster at least. But it wasn't a heavyweight fight until they just made it one, because it was Oscar De La Hoya originally. But the co-main event is Anderson Silva versus Tito Ortiz, which you probably get a better fight out of, because Tito, as much of a twat as he is, and like getting amazingly hype for wins over Alberto Del Rio with his 1-1 MMA record or whatever it was, and a 50-year-old Chuck Liddell, whose chin had been gone for the best part of 10 years. As much as being proud of those achievements is a bit sus, Tito does keep himself in good shape. Tito takes it seriously. If you watch the fight with Bonner a few years ago, holy shit, that might not be a few years ago now. It's starting to feel old. But the fight with Bonner, like, Bonner is a beaten up old dude in his own right, but Tito was out there like boxing into takedowns, and Tito was the older guy. Tito had been around since the generation of fighters before. Now, Tito hasn't had any boxing matches, even though he was threatening to have one with Dana White at one point, and then either he ducked out or Dana did. He got it negotiated into his contract that he could have an exhibition against Dana White, and then said nothing more about it. Rumour is because he saw Dana throw those hands on the bag and said, no, I don't want none of that. But it'll be fun, because this is the first time in a while that Tito Ortiz's quote-unquote fights have been against someone who is going to put up a fight. I think the last legit one he had Was Liam McGeary, maybe? Hold on, let me check. Oh no, he's beaten Chael since then. Oh damn, that looks bad of your Chael. But yeah, I mean, the Liam McGeary one was back in 2015, so it's been a while. Both men 46 years old, which is crazy because, again, you don't feel like their careers or their primes overlapped. But that's part of the Anderson Silva story. Anderson Silva's prime was not his athletic prime. He got better as he got older, which I think is one of the important things that, like, separates this sport from others. There is such a tactical and technical aspect to it. You know, you're making choices all the time. Not everyone is not going out and doing the same thing. It's not like a straight test of athleticism. And Anderson Silva found better ways to fight as he got older. Whereas Tito Ortiz just got older, but stayed in amazing shape for an old dude. Tito, obviously not noted as a great striker, not noted as a great hitter. I mean, he did knock out Chuck Liddell, but Chuck Liddell's chin is made of glass at this point. But he can take a fantastic shot and always has. The big glaring hole in the Tito Ortiz the glaring weakness in Tito Ortiz has been recently the body shots. If you remember, Lyoto Machida dropped him with that brutal knee to the body, and no one had really gone to Tito's body much. And then I think it was Rashad Evans finished him with a knee to the body along the fence. You know, when everyone else would be swinging at Tito's head while he was trying to stand up. Rashad got like the collar tie and just dug a knee to the body and put him out. And then Antonio Ruggiero Nogueira, that was the weird one. Nogueira takes him down, or knocks him down, can't remember which, but in closed guard, he postures up and starts elbowing the body. So he went in with a very specific strategy of attacking Tito's body. Now, Anderson Silva has not historically been a great body puncher. You don't see him do it a lot. But then there's an awful lot in that last boxing performance that we've never seen from Anderson Silva before. If he's going to the body, I mean, that's the thing. Like, he has always valued going to the body. It's just that he's been doing it with kicks because that's easier. They're longer, especially front kicks. They're trickier to catch, or knees from clinches, or when he bounced Bonner off the fence onto that knee. But I suspect if he values the body shots, he's probably going to go to them with his hands, and you're going to see something, I suppose, new from Anderson Silva. The left straight to the body. He was using it against Chavez as like part of a combination builder. But it'd be good to see him really dig them in here against Tito. For Tito, I suppose, just try and bully him. I think one of the really interesting things about Anderson Silva versus Julio Cesar Chavez, actually, was that Anderson Silva could tie up effortlessly. And it's like, if you watch high-level boxers, when they get dinged, they are really bad at tying up. And it's considered like a skill, like when Floyd Mayweather gets cracked by Shane Mosley or whoever, and ties him up immediately. That's considered like a high-level boxing skill. And it's because they're not really teaching it very well. Whereas if you wrestle every day for, how long has Anderson Silva been doing this? Since like 2000? So if you've wrestled every day for like the last 20 years, it's very easy to step in and just take the underhook someone's giving you when they're punching. And there were several moments in that fight where he'd duck into an easy clinch, like shoulder first, like Aldo was doing against Pedro Munoz, which is a boxing technique. You do a little slip to the outside of their lead shoulder, you put your shoulder on their center line, and you just duck into them. And you don't have to grab them. If they open up, you can grab them. If they don't open up, or if they shell up, or if they try and like stop you grabbing them, you come back and punch them. And that's what Silva was able to do against Chavez a couple of times. He'd go in for the clinch, and Chavez was like, "Oh no, he's going to clinch me again," and he'd try and like push him off, and Silva would just throw some more punches. So what I'm saying is these two will wrestle. No, I don't know what to expect from this one. If Anderson Silva's previous form has been anything to judge by, and Tito Ortiz's previous form as a striker have been anything to judge by, Anderson Silva should be able to get the decision here quite comfortably. Like, it's in Tito's favour to just try and walk him into corners and open up swinging, but that's never really been a Tito Ortiz thing. He's not like a big banger. Even when he was being touted as like a great all-round fighter back in the day, it was still the odd round kick, the odd 1-2. It was just like real meat and potatoes stuff. But someone said, I hope Tito wins and Trump picks him as a running mate, which I think would be absolutely fantastic. Vice President Tito Ortiz. The man who quit the Huntington Beach Council because they didn't... One, he was like, oh, it's too hard. And then secondly, he was like, they don't pay me enough. But they are old friends from the old The Apprentice. So then the other one this weekend is Vitor Belfort versus Evander Holyfield, was Oscar De La Hoya. It's a bit weird, as I mentioned on Twitter, like you've got to change up from coked up, well, coke fiend is what I'd call him, coke fiend Oscar De La Hoya, chubby middleweight. He ended his career at middleweight, so he was like a welterweight for a lot of his career. But chubby middleweight with substance abuse issues. And then you've changed to actual heavyweight, who is a fitness fanatic, but is 58 years old. So I don't know if that's a good opponent switch for Vitor or a bad one. But Vitor, I hope he's been hitting the sauce hard for the last couple of years, because he's looked bad since the Weidman fight. He got that Weidman title shot shortly after they banned TRT, and there was all kinds of drama, if you remember, where Weidman was saying that they were still letting him use, like the UFC and USADA. Was it USADA at the time? But whoever, he was saying that they were still letting Vitor use. But he got that head kick against Dan Henderson in their third time out. But if you watched him against Weidman, Jacare, Mousasi, that's why it's been added to Mousasi's record as but he beat Vitor Belfort. And then everything on Mousasi's record, when you go, when did he beat them? It suddenly falls apart. He beat Mark Hunt, and you're like, when did he beat him? Oh, on the end of a meth binge when he had 4 fights in MMA. Oh, okay. He beat Gary Goodridge. Oh, was that at UFC 3? No, it was in 2010 or some shit. But this isn't a Mousasi podcast. What are we talking about? Yeah, he had the Jacare fight where he jumped guard on Jacare because he was so out of ideas. He had the Mousasi fight where he just covered up along the fence. Gastelum did the same to him. He managed to scrape past Nate Marquardt, which was bizarre, but then Marquardt was in his own decline. And then Lyoto Machida kicked him in the face and unceremoniously bounced him from the UFC. Back in March of 2019, Belfort was allegedly signed by One Championship. And in April 2020, they said he was going to make his promotional debut against Elaine Engalini, the roidiest boy in One. And it didn't happen. And so he just left One with it. Apparently he was signed to One and he left One. So he didn't get anything done there. So now he's fighting the ghost of Evander Holyfield. I mean, it's weird because I feel like it was just the other day I was watching Evander Holyfield do okay against Valuev, at the age of 45 or whatever, and being like, yeah, he's still got it. So that feels like just the other day, but in fact, it was 10, 15 years ago. Don't know how confident to feel in Evander in this. But then, Vitor's thing, the killer was always the speed, and that did seem to be gone the last few times out. Who knows? It's a fucking mess is what I'm saying. I hope Evander gets it done, because I don't... Mainly, it's not anything against Vitor Belfort. I don't want to watch a 58-year-old man get killed, basically. Yeah. I think that's enough of that shit, to be honest. Enough with the old man shit. Let's talk about some of the interesting stuff that I've watched since the last episode.